Brave citizens of the People's Republic of North Korea! Great is our revolutionary struggle against imperialist oppressors! Our perfect society has no need for outmoded ideas like adequate food supply, freedom of speech, objective knowledge of reality, or a sense of humor about ourselves. But alas, we have no screenwriting manuals. We have no 3-act paradigm, no Blake Snyder beat sheet, no warped bastardization of the hero's journey. But fear not, for we have Dear Leader. Dear Leader provides all. Dear Leader shall give us screenwriting manuals. Behold! On the Art of Cinema, the only book on screenwriting you'll ever have. So yeah, North Korean dictator Kim Jong-Il wrote a screenwriting manual. But is it worse than Save the Cat? Now, this isn't actually as weird as it sounds. Kim didn't create this book while head of state. He did it way back in 1973 when his daddy was running the show, and the 32-year-old Jong-il was put in charge of the Propaganda and Agitation Department, section of Culture and Art and Publication and Press. So overseeing the state-run movie industry was part of his job description. Plus, Kim was a certifiable movie nut, reportedly amassing a private collection of over 20,000 DVDs and videotapes. So, like any rich kid nepo baby who gets an arts degree because they never have to worry about getting a real job, Kim wanted to be in showbiz. But he was pretty upset by how most of his country's movies, sucked. See, in the 1950s, 60s, and some places into the 70s, the only officially sanctioned style of art in most communist countries was called socialist realism. Socialist realism was an overtly propagandist style with the primary goal of making life under socialism appear as ideal as possible. This, of course, wasn't actually realism, but romanticism, yet it used the aesthetics of realism to try to lead people into thinking that this is how things actually were. But unless you actually lived in one of these communist countries, it's unlikely you've ever heard of any socialist realist movies. Because as far as being art and entertainment goes, most of them just weren't very good, with flat characters, wooden dialogue, and slow, redundant plots, which is what always happens when you start with a political message and then try to craft a story around it. You're getting the whole process backwards. But with On the Art of Cinema, Kim hoped he could make North Korean movies suck less and at the same time do their political work better by importing the filmmaking wisdom of the outside world.
Death to the CIA! Let us all increase production of millet and sunflowers!
I defuse bomb, black partner. Hasta la vista, baby.
Now you might be thinking, what exactly makes a socialist bureaucrat an authority on screencraft? Well, shame on your lack of faith in Dear Leader. We're talking about the man who invented the burrito. The guy who shot 11 holes in one the first time he ever played golf. Kim Jong-il can do anything and write a book on anything.
Kim Jong-il is a genius of art, a musical virtuoso, and a master of creation.
In fact, Kim Jong-il is the credited author of up to 890 literary works, from operas to children's books to a Turkish-Korean dictionary. For comparison, that lazy bum Stephen King has only written 265 works, and that's without developing a single nuclear weapon. Pick up the pace, Stephen! You're embarrassing us! Okay, it's obvious that a single human being couldn't possibly produce that much work on that many subjects in a single lifetime. So clearly most of this glut was written by someone else. And judging by how the style, tone, and word choice switches up from section to section, I wager that On the Art of Cinema had at least 2 authors. The first author, who may or may not have been Kim, is the party propagandist, responsible for such zingers as, "Our literature must become a communist humanics, which sets the masses at the forefront as the strongest, noblest, and most beautiful of human beings." But the second author appears to be an experienced writer and or filmmaker with legitimate training in film theory. I say this because whenever this author's in charge, the book's actually kind of good. This person knows their stuff, giving us cogent insights like, writers should be the interpreters of the human mind and experts in human psychology. All dramatic questions arise in the context of man's social life, and as such they always assume a social character. And the theme of a literary work must be treated naturally through the artistic structures rather than through commentary by the writer. And the impressive thing is that this book was published in 1973, 6 years before Sid Field's screenplay, the book generally considered to be the first modern screenwriting manual. Yet here we have a book making standard points on screencraft, such as how characters should be expressed through action, or how every scene should contain conflict, decades before they become commonplace among the script gurus. In fact, if you edited the chapters down to just this author's comments, you'd have something resembling a screenwriting manual available today. But there's a major problem, and this all starts with the book's one attempt to add something new to screencraft, what it calls the seed. What is the seed? Well, it's kind of hard to say, seeing as the text is never really explicit about it. The seed, it says, is the basis and the kernel of the literary work. It integrates material, theme, and thought into an organic relationship. Okay, but what is it? The seed is the basic factor ensuring the ideological value of the work. Sure, but what is it? The seed is the ideological essence which has been grasped from life itself. Care to elaborate? Selecting the right seed is the most important thing in the process of creation. Oh, would you just tell us? Oh wait, here we go. Above all, the seed must be chosen in accordance with party policy. Now we get down to it. The seed is just a fancy way of saying you're only allowed to tell stories on topics we approve of with messages we endorse. What, you thought this was going to be a legitimate screenwriting manual? No, it's a guide on creating state propaganda disguised as a screenwriting manual. And it thinks it's being slick, always implying that the way we want you to tell stories just also happens to be the theoretically perfect way of telling stories. Because we're perfect and we know everything. Wait, did I say imply? No, the book says this literally. Our party's policy scientifically determines the requirements of the developing situations and the way to meet them. Only those writers who approach reality in the light of party policy can see all the questions which arrive in life correctly. Writers and artists involved in creating revolutionary works accept party policy as their own convictions and their guide to creation. And why shouldn't they? Because after all, our party gives correct answers in concrete terms to all important social problems which arise in real life. By means of a scientific guiding ideology and theory, our party correctly clarifies problems in every area of life.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Even if you ignore all this drivel, the one thing that keeps this book from being enjoyable or even useful to read is that whenever the film expert starts to build some momentum, the other a-holes always gotta interrupt and ruin it. Like in chapter 3, when after the first guy is finished explaining how themes should be expressed through character and action, the other jerk's gotta add,
a dramatic event, no matter how interesting or impressive it may be, cannot affect people profoundly unless it is introduced and developed from the point of view of party policy.
Or like the chapter on dialogue, which opens with stuff like how dialogue's the tool of characterization and show don't tell, only for the other guy to butt in with,
communists are always exemplary in their speech. Since they value justice and truth, they do not use empty words. Since they are frugal and cultured by nature, they do not use vulgar or senseless words.
And most hilariously, after constantly saying how art should portray people truthfully and realistically, the book insists
there are no negative people in socialist society who find fault with party policy or oppose it, nor could such people exist.
North Korea, everything's sunny all the time, always.
And as you might expect, this constant back and forth between the two voices adds up to a work rife with contradictions, best summed up by the line, if a writer takes a schematic approach to life and attempts to portray it according to a preconceived pattern, this means the death of art. See, Kim thinks he can have his cake and eat it too. He wants movies that are original, artistic, and entertaining, but at the same time forbids all artistic freedom in favor of rigid, didactic, and ideologically conformist work. And he doesn't see the incompatibility. Any system that insists it has all the answers is antithetical to art. Art is about the search for truths. Art explores areas of life that can never be conclusively defined through science or dogma. Any work that insists it has the truth up front is not art. Now, Kim is correct in his understanding that narrative structures exert hidden ideological influences. For example, the way Hollywood portrays its heroes typically reinforce the ideals of individualism and self-determination, two philosophical cornerstones of Western capitalist democracies. And as mentioned in my last video, the salvation achieved through the Hollywood character arc often carries overtones of Christian theology. But while it is theoretically possible to reshape narrative paradigms to promote socialist values, this book gives nothing on how writers might possibly do this. Basically, Kim knows what he wants, but doesn't know how to get it. So instead of Kim's promise to provide new theories on art and literature, he just takes the old theories and puts a chokehold on how they can or can't be used. That's not theorizing, that's pigeonholing. And the irony is never stronger than in the chapter, Originality is the Essence of Creation. Here it says, art must be original. This is a natural requirement of their mission to nurture the independent and creative spirit in people's minds. Do I really need to explain why that's so ironic? And Kim himself seems aware of this growing irony, because he interrupts the chapter to go on the following rant. The bourgeoisie's critics malign slander that socialist art is not varied because of the single world outlook which underlies it is in fact only a sophistry intended to emasculate the powerful ideological effect of artistic works by deliberately ignoring the significant role played by world outlook in the manifestation of the artist's individuality. Kim then goes completely off the deep end at the end of the chapter, saying that individuality for individuality's sake has nothing in common with the creative individuality which produces genuine art. By advocating individuality for individuality's sake, modern bourgeois art cripples large numbers of artists, condemning them to spend their days as slaves to money. The creative individuality of writers and artists can only flower fully in a socialist society, which has finally been freed from the restriction of individuality by repressive power and the encroachment upon human rights by money, and which provides all the necessary preconditions for according genuine respect to an artist's individuality and giving them free rein to creative originality. So, originality and individuality, huh? Well, let's see how that holds up, because if you thought this section of the book was full of propaganda, the final two sections are downright Orwellian. Opening with the chapter, the process of creative work must be the process of making creative arts revolutionary and working class. Kim declares that a ceaseless struggle must be waged to make writers and artists revolutionary in order to eliminate from their minds all sorts of outmoded concepts and capitalist ideas, such as individualism, egoism, and latitudinarianism, so they might produce excellent revolutionary works conducive to people's re-education along communist lines, thereby transforming art into a process by which they cultivate boundless loyalty to the party and the revolution through adherence to the spirit of the party. And if it's not yet clear just who you're really working for, we get the chapter, Be Loyal to the Party and Prove Yourselves Worthy of the Trust It Places in You. The party's political confidence is the greatest honor and happiness for writers and artists. The political integrity of writers and artists is unthinkable apart from the confidence of the party, because it loves them and places great confidence in them. And to turn its artists into good little robots, Kim's Korea expects all artists to both work and live under a strict daily routine that'll, quote, transform creative practice into a blast furnace for ideological tempering. Any practice of creative work and manner of life which violates established order and discipline should be subjected to an intensive ideological struggle. See, the problem with artists is they just think too much. Just let the party think for you. Artists should be entrusting their destiny entirely to the party and placing their unswerving faith in it. One must open one's heart to it. They must firmly believe in the party and follow it without the slightest vacillation. Don't you get it? Big Brother loves you. But wait, there's more. Through what's called the speed campaign, you're also expected to churn out work as rapidly as possible. Think that won't work? Well, the allegation that the campaign of acceleration will lower the quality of work is nothing but a capitalist, revisionist sophistry that in effect advocates libertarianism in creative work. Art and literature can be developed quickly in this society because all the necessary preconditions for their development can be enlisted under the party's monolithic guidance. Furthermore, creative work cannot be slowed down, allegedly, to improve its quality. Slackening the speed of creative work is proof that creative enthusiasm and confidence are lacking.
Put that coffee down. Coffee for closer only. You call yourself a
Artist.
You son of a bitch?
The leads are weak.
The leads are weak. You're weak.
Oh, what? You don't think that'll work? You don't think the speed campaign will produce quality works of art? Well, let me tell you something. The creative staff should acquire the revolutionary trait of unqualified support for the great leader's instructions and the party's policy. New, miraculous, and innovatory successes in creative work will be achieved if the creative workers are imbued with the unqualified revolutionary spirit, which achieves the most brilliant of results by displaying total devotion and boundless creative energy, by regarding the great leader's instructions and the party's policy as the letter of the law, and remaining firmly determined to deny themselves all rest and even deny the right to die until they have fulfilled their revolutionary duty. Ah!
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
So what was the result of all this? Did North Korea really become a juggernaut of Asian cinema loved the world over? No, of course not. Though the book was made mandatory reading for all film artists, critics generally agree there's no real change in the quality of North Korean films after its publication. In fact, Kim grew so frustrated with the lack of progress that in 1977 he resorted to kidnapping South Korea's most famous director alongside its most popular actress to force them to make movies for him. It's a really bizarre story that Atrocity Guy did a great video on, which I'll link to below. But one question remains. Is it worse than Save the Cat?
On this side, megalomaniacal despot and nuclear weapons enthusiast Kim Jong-Il. On the other, the guy who wrote "Stop or my mom will shoot." Who is the worst script guru? Round 1. More knowledgeable on screencraft.
As I said before, if you shift through all the dreck, On the Art of Cinema actually contains a lot of cogent points on screencraft. Save the Cat, on the other hand, is full of junk theory and a lot of half-assed generalizations.
Point Kim. Round 2. Better written.
Despite all his flaws, Blake Snyder at least knows how to be clear and straight to the point, while On the Art of Cinema is one of the dullest and most repetitive things I've ever read.
Point Snyder. Round 3. More formulaic.
Let's see, On the Art of Cinema demands a strict adherence to a political ideology which limits every single aspect of storytelling, but the Blake Snyder beat sheet insists you make the exact same story every single time. So,
tie! Round 4! Bigger egomaniac! Tie! Round 5! Greater long-term damage!
Well, let's see. Kim Jong-il permanently destabilized East Asian geopolitics with the threat of nuclear weapons, but Blake Snyder ruined an entire generation of would-be screenwriters and accelerated Hollywood's decline into a cheesy formula factory. So, tie!
So there you have it! Blake Snyder is as equally bad a script guru as brainwashing tyrant Kim Jong-il.
So, would I recommend reading On the Art of Cinema? Hell no! This thing is painful to read. And even if you just cut it down to only the useful parts, you wouldn't get anything you wouldn't find in another screenwriting manual. But if you are curious, the full text is available on archive.org. And if you want to learn more about North Korean cinema and Kim Jong-il, there's a great 6-part documentary on it that I'll link to below. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit the like button, write a comment below, and subscribe because it helps the channel get seen by more people. Until next time, I'm the Script Monk, and as they say in North Korea, adios.